Welcome to the Shine the Way podcast. Today I'm joined by Matt Rice, the head basketball coach at DeSoto. Matt's been the head coach of the DeSoto Wildcats basketball program for the last 15 years. He has won the UKC Coach of the Year in 21, 22, and he was the co-coach of the year in 2020 and 2023. He was the 2022 Eddie Ryan Award winner. In 2023, they were the KSHSAA Class 5A state runner-up. And in 2020, they took third. He has the second best record in the UKC league history at 58-25, which is a 70% winning percentage, which is really good. He's a two-time UKC league champions, two-time Frontier League champ, married to Heather, and has 3 wonderful children. Welcome, Matt.
Jake, thanks for having me.
All right, so let's just jump right in here. And obviously, you're a basketball coach. My assumption is when you grew up, you played basketball. So did you play basketball, and what other sports did you grow up playing?
Yes, of course, I played basketball. I also played some baseball. I played soccer, both of those through 7th and 8th grade. But by the time I got to high school, I was just basketball. And then I was lucky enough to be a part of a really good college basketball program. I don't really say that I played basketball in college. I just got to be a part of the team, which was good at Mid-America Nazarene. So
Yeah. During your time through that journey, primarily with basketball, it sounds like, when you look back, was there any specific coaches that you look back and be like, oh, I think he probably played a part into why I wanted to go into the teaching and coaching profession?
yes, of course. So Coach Lamar, Rocky Lamar at Mid-America Nazarene. Really, I grew up going to his basketball camps, and that's where I really started to grow my love for the game of basketball. He just made it so much fun. And he was a good guy that, got to know every camper. So that's where I really started to love it. And then I was really lucky to play for a great high school coach in John McFall at Olathe South. He's a Kansas Hall of Famer. He won a gabillion games, it seems like, and a couple state championships. And he really taught me a lot about the game. And then I was a part of Coach Lamar's program at Mid-America. Those are the two that certainly impacted me the most. Very different styles of coaches, very different. But I learned a ton from both of them.
Yeah. So you've been coaching at DeSoto for 15 years. This is year 16 coming up, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Why does Matt Rice, why do you do it? Why do you still continue to love to coach basketball?
Because I love kids. I just love being around young people. I love seeing them grow and develop. I love seeing them mature. I love the relationships that are developed over time. I love seeing guys come back to the program, whether they just come to a game or our alumni scrimmage or I just see them or whatever. I just love being around kids and watching them find success, and I'm lucky to be a part of that. That's the main reason. I obviously love to compete and I love basketball and I love all that stuff also, but it's primarily because I just love being around the young people.
So during your time, obviously you've had a transition, obviously, of 15 years. So if you break it down into the first 5, second 5, third 5 of your tenure, has it changed on how you've had to interact with the kids with just the different, now technology, social media, things are so different than probably your first 5 years. Has that changed at all during your time?
Yes, I've changed a lot as a coach. I don't know if it's really because kids have changed. Yes, technology and social media and access to highlights all the time. Kids don't watch whole games anymore. They just watch highlights. But the truth is when you get them into a gym, that stuff ceases to exist. So the gym is still the same. It hasn't changed. The game has changed, and I've changed the way I coach in large part because I feel like I'm older and wiser. I like to think so anyway, but I don't know if it's because I don't think it's because the kids are a lot different, and it's mostly because once you walk through the gym doors, to borrow from the movie Hoosiers, rim is still 10 feet. The free throw line is still 15 feet. Like those things haven't changed since forever, since I was playing when I was little. So
Yeah, those things, that's been the consistent for you. Obviously, every year is a new team. You've had some teams where you've had guys for 2-3 years on the varsity level, and this year is going to be a whole new crop of people. You do have a returning varsity member in Dylan, but it's going to be a whole new cast of characters. How do you go about each year, one, instilling the main principles of your program, but also trying to adjust what you and Coach Bell and everybody do inside the program for the new crop of players?
yeah, well, I'll be honest with you, it starts with my assistants. All of these kids that are going to play for me this year have been in our program for at least 2 years. So they've spent hours with my assistants in games and in practices and in the off season. So it starts with them. I mean, no, every high school coach will tell you, every college coach will tell you that their success is owed to a lot of people. And any success that I can claim is certainly owed to my assistants. So those guys, Coach Anderson, Coach Jones, Coach Bell, Coach Talby before them, they are the ones that instill, our what we want in from our kids. They're the ones who start that process. So when they get to me and they're playing for me, that stuff is already there. And all I have to do is just, my role is just to let it grow some more, hopefully get it to blossom a little more. When you have seniors, that's a whole different being than a freshman. So, my job is to cultivate, senior leadership, senior responsibility, accountability, all that kind of stuff. But all the basics, hard work, be a great teammate, be unselfish, all that kind of stuff starts with my assistants. So when it comes to establishing that stuff, it's usually, I mean, especially if it's a kid that's been in our program for 4 years and they're still around, it's been instilled. So the next step is just figuring out what kind of team I have, what kind of talent we have, what kind of things that they do well, what kind of things they can't do well, and then adjusting what we do, offensively and defensively according to that.
Yeah, so I was able to reach out to a few people and get some quotes. And a longtime friend of yours, childhood friend, and longtime assistant, Eric Bell, he said, Matt shines the way through his preparation. We don't waste time on things we can't do, but we focus on the things we can do. Guaranteed there have been seasons where we have won games because of our preparation. And so just taking his quote on your preparation, I've been blessed. You've allowed me to come into the gym and watch your practices and the preparation. And I've seen how you maybe have went into some games where you are the less talented team and you guys are more prepared than the teams you face. Is that something that you've always been good at, or you've learned over the 15 years? Did you pick any of that up maybe from your high school coach that you talked about, Coach McFall or Rocky Lamar? Like, where did that preparation come from?
Yeah, well, that's nice of Eric to say, and nice of you to think that we beat teams that were less talented than. I wouldn't go that far, but it all started with playing for Coach McFall and for Coach Lamar. Both of them cared deeply about being prepared, and their teams being ready to play against whoever we were playing against. But then I also had the opportunity to coach with both of them. So, inside that, that team on the coach side, on those teams on the coach's side, I learned a ton about what all they go into, what all they think about going into preparation. As a player, you just see the finished product. Those coaches, Coach McFall and Coach Lamar, taught me a lot, and their assistants around them taught me a lot about, how to prepare, what to look for. Coach McFall, I remember sitting with him watching film in my very first year coaching. And I asked him, I said, well, what do you look for in film? And I expected him to say, well, are we running the play right? Did we, go make the right pass? And he talked about things like, when we're looking at rebounding, he goes, I don't really look to see if they, necessarily go make contact. I look to see if they're looking to make contact with somebody who's running to the boards. Right? He was always looking for awareness more than anything, and he wanted his kids to be aware of what was going on. It seemed like, and Coach Lamar, was very in tune with what other teams were doing, and what they did well. And he was always looking to take away what they did best. So when I started, as a head coach, so that was 10 years into my career that I'd been an assistant before I was a head coach. Um, I was always, looking at plays and things like that. Maybe I would try tendencies, but as I got older and more veteran, I started really focusing in on the things that I think matter for us when it comes to preparation. And we try to take away from a page from Coach Lamar's book, try to take away what the other team really does well, in our scouting report. Like, if there's a great shooter, then we really focus on what can we do to take his open looks away. We just really focus on that, and it's always simple. I've seen scouting reports that are multiple pages for high school kids. I try to keep it to a page, or even if I can do half a page, it's half a page. And we keep it simple and to the point and easy for them to understand. And what I found is that when I got more and more simple with my scouting reports, and me, the coaching staff, we started really honing in on just a couple things that we thought we could do to impact the game in the preparation. We got better at executing that stuff. It's like their heads weren't swimming anymore. So the more simple it is, the better for us.
Well, I was able to get a pretty interesting quote, a unique quote, if you will, from Coach Jones, who was former player Jones under your tutelage. So he's had it from both aspects now. He's coached with you and he played under you. And he said, being a great coach can be seen in many different ways. Being a great leader, having incredible basketball IQ, making the right choice in hard decisions, caring for athletes and others around you, and being able to put your best foot forward. Well, these are just some characteristics of the many of being a great coach. Matt Rice exceeds the average in these areas. Matt leads by example for his athletes and coaching staff. He consistently puts his best foot forward in everything he does, whether that is in the classroom or the gym, and most importantly, he cares. While every great coach focuses on how their team can achieve success, how their players can improve, Matt will always believe that the character of a young man when they leave our program matters more than the wins and losses. Obviously, we want our boys to have success on the court, but our main goal is to build up great young men. At the end of the day, when athletes are done playing, we know we have done our job if they leave as upstanding young men, and Matt does a phenomenal job at ensuring this happens. Matt is a great leader in all areas of life. As a coach, he keeps composure under stress, puts the needs of others before his own, and shows up for student athletes. As an educator, he has a true joy for working and building relationships with students. As a father, Matt makes times for his family and puts them first in everything he does. Lastly, as a mentor, Matt encourages consistently. He helps wherever he's able and shows his belief in others. No matter the area of his life, Matt shines the way for everyone around him, even when life gets tough. And that was a good quote from Coach Jones. I've read that one a couple times because that was long, but it hit on everything that I echo everything he says from what I've seen. And so taking that, when you first started to the way you approach your program now, has it changed the value? Obviously, we're a very competitive people. You get into coaching because you're competitive and you want to win. But where he states the value of young men leaving the program versus wins and losses, has that changed over the 15 years?
Well, let me start by saying that's awfully nice of Colton to say. And let me just tell you right now, Colton's going to be a really good one. He's just starting out, and he's going to be a good one. He's heading in the right direction. Same with my freshman coach, Jordan Anderson. They're going to be really good ones, and we're lucky to have them. No, I love to win, but like I said, I got into this business because I love kids. So it's always mattered to me. So if I can get personal here a little bit, like for me, my being a teacher and a coach is more than just, this is my career and I know that we can impact kids. Like for me, it's a mission. Like it's it's a calling that is rooted in my faith that I'm here to help kids. And it's through, obviously it's through situations that I spend a lot of time with them, especially with the basketball team. We spend a ton of time together. So it's a unique opportunity to hopefully have a positive impact on kids to be a teacher and a coach. But it's one that from the beginning, it's been about loving kids and forming good relationships with them and helping them. I tell my students at the beginning of the year, my classroom students, that what I want is for them to walk out of my classroom at the end of the year and think that dude, he was pretty cool. And because I know that in teenage language, that means that guy cared for me, right? And that's what I want. I want kids to know that I care for them. When you have a lot of kids, I know I don't reach all of them. I know that there's people that haven't been happy with me as a coach and haven't been happy with me as a teacher, but it's always been about helping kids along the way. They got a lot going on in their lives. Some of them have tons of support at home. Some of them don't have any at home. So I just want to be there where they need just somebody that cares. I care about wins and losses, mostly because they care about wins and losses. As a coach, I of course want to win, but when you're a high school coach, you get the players that you get. I've had years where my most rewarding years have been with some of my teams that haven't necessarily been great basketball teams, but it's been kids that have grown and developed and matured. And that's where I get the most joy, is when I see that stuff. So no, I don't, this will be it's my 16th year as a head coach, but my 26th year as a coach. And that's easily where I've gotten the most joy. And I've been lucky to be a part of some really good, as an assistant. At Mid-America especially, we had a ton of success. When I was there as an assistant, I take zero credit for any of the success we had then, none at all. But I was a part of a lot of wins and losses. But even then, what's better is when I see some of those kids out and about, and I see that they're doing well in life. And a lot of those guys are fathers now, and seeing them doing really well as fathers is really rewarding.
Well, personally, I was able to be at the alumni scrimmage this last year, and just listening and seeing the smiles and the joy you and Coach Bell took talking about some of those individuals that were from your first 5 or 6 teams, first handful of teams that still come back and try to run with the young fellas. And I remember there specifically, you were talking about a young man that went to somewhere up in Nebraska, I believe it was, for college basketball.
Yeah.
Found out that he was probably a better track athlete, transferred over to the track program and became an All-American or something. And you could see it on the court still today. And I think he's in his 30s and bouncy as anyone else on the court. And just those type of stories, that stuff was really cool and special for me to hear. So I can only imagine what it was like for you and Coach Bell to have coached them and be able to see that still play out.
Yeah, there's nothing. The alumni scrimmage that we host an alumni scrimmage like many high school programs do. We get them together and play over Christmas break, and it is the highlight of my season every year. Is just seeing those guys come back and hearing what they're up to. Like, I'll never forget the first time a kid pushed his baby in on a stroller with his wife next to him, and just your heart just melts when you see, these what were boys when you were dealing with them becoming young men. And Jacob, the young man that you're talking about specifically, that he'd gone to Concordia in Nebraska. He just got married a month ago. So knowing that he's out there living his best life, he found his lifetime love, and that stuff is, I just love it. I just love seeing kids grow up and then them coming back and being excited to be back, and they share memories and talk about things that were said in practice and things that were said in games, and everybody laughs. It's fantastic. It's awesome.
Yeah. So I do have a quote from the aforementioned Coach Anderson, Jordan Anderson, who's the freshman coach right now at DHS. And but before I get to that, just real quick, we're going to kind of go off subject here. Is he the best shooter in the program?
Coach Anderson?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. He can flat out shoot it. He can flat out shoot it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Coach Anderson says, I have known Coach Rice for 5 years now. He has been an influential person in my life from day one. He is strong in his faith and is a true family man. He leads by example for his players and coaches daily, expressing these values. I would not be the coach I am today without his guidance. And where I want to go from that quote by Coach Anderson is he's got a young family. Coach Bell's got family. He's had 2 boys that go through your program. You obviously have a family, and you know Coach Jones will someday. How do you balance family and basketball and teaching? Like that's the trifecta there. How do you balance that?
Well, for me, it starts with my wife. I mean, every coach will tell you that having a supportive wife at home is incredibly important. I know my greatest mentors, Coach McFall and Coach Lamar, both had wives that were just super supportive. I mean, just incredibly supportive. So for me, it starts with that, having a good woman at home. Um, but then, it is an advantage to be a head coach because I make the schedule. So that helps. But then it's just, understanding that for me, it's understanding that my ultimate mission calling is to be a father. So it's easy for me to make a decision like, I don't have to watch this film right now. I don't have to work on a practice plan right now. I can be present with my kids and with my wife. So yeah, it just was about prioritizing and saying this is the most significant thing. I think sometimes coaches um, get caught up in the grind of coaching. That's one of my least favorite words because when people talk about the grind, to me that's like misery. I don't want to have to grind to do something. I want to love it. So for me to love it, which is when if I'm loving what I'm doing in the moment, that is when I'm the most successful. That's when I have the most um, can't have the most insight when I'm scouting. It's when I have the greatest ideas when I'm thinking about what we need to do offensively or what our practice should look like. Is when I love doing it. It's when it starts to feel like a grind is when I'm not very effective. So for me to keep loving what I'm doing, I would be miserable if I didn't have the support of my family, if I didn't know how my kids were growing and how they were developing, and if I didn't have a close relationship with my kids and my wife, I would not like coaching at all. So I guess that for me, it's in large part, I can only coach because I'm able to prioritize my family. Otherwise, I would not like it. I would not like it at all. I wouldn't be effective, which is because I don't want to grind. I want to love. I want to have passion about what I'm doing. And I know that, and when people say that they're grinding, they're not meaning that they're not passionate about it. I'm not judging anybody that uses that language. It's just not the language that I like to use.
Yeah, I
So,
think that's a testament to your program because I do believe you talk about building young men and that you started to see some of your past young men come back as husbands and fathers. And what you have portrayed as a basketball coach, but also as a family man, as a husband to Heather and a father to your kids during those times where you are busy, even if you have a big game coming up, you're still present with your family. That shows them that you can aspire to be a CEO of a business or a doctor or whatever you want to be, a basketball coach, yet still be present on a day-to-day basis with your family. And that if you are, your cup will be much more full than if you're not. And you may still get the win because you scouted longer or something, but it won't be as joyous.
yeah.
So
Well, and I tell you
that's
what, you talk about the wins, like when you get to go home to a family that, you know, looks forward to seeing you because you've put time in with them, it makes the losses a ton easier to deal with. And it puts them into perspective. Like I don't like losing, and sometimes losses really stick with me. But the truth is when I come home, it's easy for me to just not worry about it in that moment. I can worry about it later, but when I can come home and not have to worry about it, that is just such a blessing. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know what I would do
Well,
without them. To be honest with you, I would be a miserable individual without my wife and kids.
well, you said you got a little real earlier, and I'll get real with you here. Over the last 2 years, it's been some of the toughest time in my life, and you allowing me to find peace for an hour, hour and a half by just being in the gym, not even being a coach, just being there, being present, being able to communicate with you, Coach Bell, Coach Anderson, and Coach Jones. I don't know if I'll ever truly be able to express how grateful I am, because that gave me some time when my mind was not ever shutting off. Even when I slept, it didn't shut off. For that hour and a half leading up to the season, I was able to shut it off. And so for that, I'm forever grateful. And thank you for that.
My pleasure. My pleasure. It
Uh,
was fun having you in there.
um, moving on. So one of the things I like to figure out about a coach is if you had your perfect team to run the perfect style of offense and defense that Matt Rice would want to run, it's not, you have whatever you would need to run your offense and your defense. What style would you play?
Uh, the style that sees the ball go in the basket a lot and wins us a lot of games. um, I don't. Obviously, just like every coach, we want to play fast. It's more fun to get up and down and fast break. But when I love it the most, let me put it this way. So I don't know if it's a style. Um, when I love what we're doing the most is when the ball moves side to side, in and out with the pass, where dribbles are limited. I'm not opposed to dribbling. I'm not a you can never dribble it kind of guy motion. We want to attack for sure. But man, when the ball moves and the player moves and you can just tell that they are in sync with each other and you get great looks because of it, that's my favorite way to play. I had a team a couple of years ago. We unfortunately were upset in sub-state, but man, it's a bunch of little short guys that just knew how to play together and they knew how to move the ball. And we had some kids that could shoot it a little, and we had some guys that could make plays. David Coben and Trent Johnson, Blake Hicks, and then a host of kids that really understood, what they could do and what they couldn't do, and they played together, and it was so much fun. And I could just honestly, it was one of those years where I could just kind of sit back and, they just knew how, by that time they just all knew how to play, and that's what I love is when, in all honesty, when I can sit back and not have to do much. When they play that well together, that's what I'd love to watch. I like a good set play, but I don't, that's my high isn't when they come out of a timeout and I've drawn a set that gets us a layup or whatever. Like that's fine. I mean, I want that, but it's way better when we can just do it in flow and we don't have to call timeouts and they know the situation and they know the shot we need. That's what I love offensively. Defensively, I just don't want to give up. Like, I hate giving up layups. I hate giving up layups and I hate giving up wide open in rhythm threes to great shooters. So defensively, if we're not giving up layups and we're not giving up in rhythm open threes to great shooters, then I'm pretty satisfied defensively. So whatever it takes to make that happen is what I'm for.
So I talked to Coach Roby, and he talked about playing fast, and one of the things he mentioned is that on his playing fast that he does give up open layups. So how do you balance that? Because sometimes you get going so fast that you do give up layups, and it is
Yeah.
frustrating because you can't stop those. It just seems like sometimes it's a give and take.
Yeah. Of course it is. I don't want to give up layups, but of course we're going to give up layups. Every coach in the country is trying to score layups. Like that's the best shot in basketball is a layup. So you're going to give up layups occasionally. We're going to make mistakes on the offensive end that are going to turn into runouts and layups. I don't know if balance is I'm not looking to balance what I want and when we make mistakes and it doesn't happen, as much as I'm thinking about, and what I want the guys to think about is that we're on to the next play. What is the proper response to a mistake, the proper response to, giving up a layup or making a bad pass, at least to a steal and a layup, or what's a proper response to giving up a wide open three to a great shooter that knocks one down. What you asked earlier about one of the things that I've changed in my time as a coach, and certainly one of the things that I've changed as a head coach through the years, is our focus on controlling what we can control. Like sometimes other teams just make plays, and sometimes other kids make plays, and sometimes other teams are better, and sometimes they do draw up the perfect play. Sometimes it's just not our night. And what I tell the boys, what I want them to know is that it's not always going to go our way, and what matters is how we respond. How do we respond to each other? How do we respond defensively? How do we respond offensively? How to respond in practice the next day if it doesn't go well the night before? It's all about response because, let's be honest, if we're talking about life lessons, that's one of the great life lessons that sports can teach. It's not always going to go your way. So what are you going to do in response to that? How are you going to handle that? How are you going to handle it with the people around you? How are you going to handle it with the people that are close to you? How are you going to handle it with the work that you do, with the preparation that you do? Just, you can only control the things that you can control. There's some things that are out of your control. One of the things you control is how you respond every single time. Yeah.
On that, you've had some games where you just referenced one of them. I think it was 3 years ago when David and Trent, those guys, got upset in the championship.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've also had the big game where David hit the shot to put you guys in the state title game.
Yeah.
How do you, one, prepare your team for that state title game? And also, how do you deal with the kids, one, that are leaving the program, but also the ones that are returning the program after a tough loss like that?
Okay, so I'll start with the state tournament game. Prepping for the state championship, if to be honest with you, if I could have something back, I would like to do that again. It's not that I didn't think that we prepared. It's just that it was our first time. And I think that we could have done a better job preparing the guys mentally to go again. It was when your team makes a last second shot and the buzzer sounds as the ball is sitting on the rim and then it falls through, and the kid who shot it is sliding into the bleachers right in front of our student crowd, and a wave falls on top of them, and everybody's going crazy. We have great community support in DeSoto. There's a huge crowd down there in Emporia that night, and everybody's going crazy. We were wrapped up in that moment for a long time that night, and I know that our guys and you have to let them enjoy the moment for sure. But looking back, I wish we would have taken one more moment before we went lights out and talked about the significance of moving on and preparing for the next day mentally and emotionally, and living that moment again later. Because there were so many videos of it, it was a great moment. So we could have gone back and relived that moment as much as we wanted. So I would say that I did not do a good job preparing our guys for the championship game. We did a scouting report and all that kind of stuff, and we knew how good Topeka Seaman was and that they were playing incredibly well at the moment. But I think we probably could have been a little bit more prepared going into that game. The loss, which was the next year we were a very, very good team, I thought, and we lost in the sub-state championship. We just got outscored, plain and simple. We didn't play much good defense and got outscored. That one was easier to handle going into the off season because we had such great kids that had bought in to everything that we try to accomplish as a program. And like what we really focus on as a program is we want kids to be great teammates, in every moment, in the celebration, in the downturns, in the moment where it hurts, the moment when you're just so excited you can barely contain yourselves, the moments when it's hard. We want to be great teammates, and the reason that is because that's a life lesson I tell the kids. Like, you're not going to stop being on teams when you're done playing basketball. Like, you're always going to be a part of a team, even if your team is just your family. Like, you still want to be a great teammate, to your family. So we really focus on that, and then we focus on understanding what you can control and what you can't control. And those kids, that senior class and that junior class in particular, just had a really good grasp on those ideas. So when we lost, they were, heartbroken, of course. And I know that they look back and just like I do, they question things that happened, questions decisions that were made. I totally understand. Like, it's a loss that hurt. So of course you look back on it, but they also look back understanding that they left everything on the court, that they had a phenomenal season playing together, and that they loved playing together. And that the moments and memories they had together were far outweigh the positive ones, far outweigh that one moment. And they understood that. And I want to be clear about this too. I've had people over the years ask me why I haven't looked for jobs outside of DeSoto. And the reason is simple. The community, the parents and the kids are so awesome. Those two classes in particular, the families of those boys also understood the significance of what they had accomplished, and they weren't going to let just one loss ruin it. So those boys had great parents and families that were there to catch them when they were hurting and support them when they're hurting, along with their teammates. So, that was less me and being able to move on past that than it was those kids and their maturity and their families, I would say. And DeSoto is such a great place. I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky to be there.
Well, I've really enjoyed getting to know coaches across the board, teachers across the board, and they have some really good ones, and they do what's best for the kids. Sometimes it may end up causing a lawsuit in there, but it's best for some of the kids. So, but on those two classes you referenced there that were the primary players of that loss, I think that's just a testament to what you guys do through the 4 years, 3 and 4 years of the program, and what you referenced at the very beginning when we were talking about your program. You referenced Coach Bell, Talby, Anderson, Coach Jones now, and I'm sure there were other coaches. We're not going to say Coach Hessong, though. He doesn't qualify.
No.
He doesn't qualify.
No.
But so before we get to the quick hitters, I do want to just touch on a couple of things that changed last year, or one thing that changed. The shot clock. Did that impact your teams at all? Obviously, when I talked to Coach Tinsley, he said it was weird from his perspective that you play all year with it and then go to the state tournament and you didn't play with it. He said that did kind of mess with him a little bit. But in the regular season and everything, was there did it adjust? Did you have to adjust to it at all?
So early in the season, it was just for me, for our coaches, but especially for the boys, it was just this awareness that there was a clock. So you could tell that when the clock had been rolling for a while in the possession, that their mindset started to change. Like, what they started thinking, like, when are we going to get this shot? Is it time now to call out for a ball screen? Like, are we going to go away from what we're doing right now? And it wasn't so much that we were hurrying or taking bad shots. It was just the awareness of a clock being on. It just changed kind of the mental state of our kids. But as the season went on and they got more and more used to having it, it didn't really impact us at all. I think we had one shot clock violation, not us personally, in our games all season. I think we had one shot clock violation. Of course, there was a couple times where we didn't get a shot that we would have been happy with previous years. But yeah, it didn't really play much of a role. When we got to the sub-state tournament, the sub-state championship game, we played against Piper, and they're no different than we are. They're taking the best shot they can as soon as they can. They want to get up and down. And yeah, I don't know if shot clock probably never got under 10 seconds in that game. So it didn't really impact too much, I don't think, other than mentality early.
Did you have to coach the boys much on, when we get to a certain point in the shot clock that maybe we want to get it to player A or player B so that they can maybe create, or was that just kind of the flow and the boys understood that?
I mean, I every year it's made clear who our playmakers are, even before we had a shot clock. I don't want kids that aren't playmakers trying to make plays constantly. So early, it was made clear in practice, like these are the guys that we want to have the ball in their hand in the last second shot. And I also make clear, like, it doesn't mean that you won't ever shoot it at the end of a shot clock. It just means that they're the ones that are probably going to make the pass to you if you're shooting it, so no, the boys understand. Like most kids want to win, and they want to do the things that lead to wins. And they know who the players that should have the ball at the end of the shot clock are. Like, they all know it. So it wasn't much of a problem last year. I don't anticipate it being a problem this year. We got to figure out who that kid's going to be, but yeah, I think the kids will be good with it.
All right, let's move on to the quick hitters. My favorite questions and coaches typically least favorite. Give me the all-time Matt Rice coached starting five or team of 8.
From DeSoto, or all my years. Okay, from DeSoto.
I'd say so that's just limited to the 15 at DeSoto.
That's fine, because I've been lucky to be around some really, really, really good players in my years as a coach. Like kids that I didn't really impact or influence all that much, but man, they were good. All right, so David Coben.
You mentioned him. I got a quote.
Do you want to do that quote now, or do you want me to finish first?
Yeah, let me go ahead and let me run through this. I wasn't sure. I asked him for it, and thankfully we had technical difficulties the first time we did it, so it gave him another month, and he got it to me. So, Coach Rice is one of the best coaches I've ever played for. The way he showed love to his teammates and caring for them was amazing. Coach Rice was not just my coach. He was one of the fatherly figures in my life that I looked up to. Me and his son are like brothers, and Coach Rice is like a dad to me. He gave me so much confidence in high school and helped me out with the man I am today. Although he could have yelled at me more to prepare me more for college. Compete. When we are competing, he wants us to work really hard against each other so we could be ready for the game. The games we lost were because we didn't play as hard as we could, and that's probably because some of the team was like, we beat this team already, so we're good. But Coach wanted us to treat every game the same, like this was our first time playing them. His enthusiasm was great. I loved being able to joke around with him, but also lock in when we needed to. Coach Rice was truly one of my favorite coaches to play for. He wasn't just a coach, he was a father to me, and some days I wish I could keep playing for him, but I wish him luck for this season coming up. Can't wait to come catch some of the games and practices this year.
That's a great kid right there. I was lucky to coach him. It's funny that he said that about being yelled at, because I told him, and I actually tell all the kids, which I haven't had a ton actually that go on to play in college, but I always tell them, like, listen, your college coach isn't going to be like me, because I'm not really a yeller, and they're going to yell at you. So I told Dave, David, listen, when you get to Coach Boshi, he's going to be a little bit more intense than I was. I promise. So just be prepared for that. That's funny that he said that.
That's Coach Bell's job, and he still doesn't prepare him as much. It's all right.
You're right. You're right. Okay, back to the top 8s. David Coben, Trent Johnson, Wyatt Knoll, Mason Weedle, Nate Barnhart. How many up to 5?
That's 5. Yep.
Joey Johnson, Oh man, now we're going to start. How many's that? 6. Let me think about it for a second here. Mason, Joey had some pretty good ones over the years. I mean, Jaden Lang had a great career for us. Like he was tough to stay in front of. I probably put him in the top 8. Jaden Lang, and then probably Jared Baruth, who had a phenomenal senior season for us. He was really good his senior year. He graduated in 17 or 18, I believe, 17 or 18. We won our second Frontier League championship that year. After starting a little slow, we just went on a tear in large part because he was so good. Yeah, made a sub-state championship that year. Yeah, he was the good. Yeah, that's probably those 8.
Was it him and Coach Bell's older son that year?
Yes,
And
Brandon.
they could both shoot it pretty well, right?
Yeah, and we had another kid named Levi Hansen that could really, really, really shoot it. Yeah, that was a fun team to coach because they could flat out shoot it. Yeah, that was fun. See, when you got kids that can put the ball in the basket, coaching is fun.
Well, that team would be pretty good. I mean, you got size obviously with Wyatt and Nate, and then you got
and Joey Johnson. Joey Johnson was a man-child.
Yep, I remember. Was he the alley-oop guy that you guys used to throw?
No, that's Ryan Stahlbomber. Joey played with Ryan, but no, it's Joey Johnson was Mason's age.
Okay, yeah. Well, I didn't get to see Mason as much, but I'll argue with anybody if they tell me they've seen a better shooter than Ryan Weedle, Mason's brother, even Coach Anderson.
Yeah, I saw the 22 points and something ridiculous clip. Like 2 minutes. Yeah, I've seen that.
The kid could fill it up, and everything I've ever heard from Drew and you about Mason was he could fill it up as well. Especially, I think you told me about the game where him and one of his teammates scored all but 2 points. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, we scored 54 points, and he and Joey, the other one was Joey, scored 52 of them. And the other basket was our very first basket of the game, was scored by the third kid, and so they scored 52 straight points, the 2 of them. Yeah, that was a fun one. Yeah, Mason was a stud. Like he did everything well. He was fun to coach too. He was really fun to coach.
Yeah, I mean,
he was on my team. He was a junior my very first year as a head coach at DeSoto, and I was like, man, this is gonna be easy if I have kids like this.
Yeah, Mason and David as your 1-2 combo, and then you throw Trent in there who can guard 6'8", even though he's about 5'8", and he can guard 5'8", and do everything. And then you got your bigs, and then like you said, Jared Baruth, and nobody could stay in front of Jaden. So let's flip it.
No, I mean, I've had I feel bad about only doing 8 because I've had some other pretty good players.
Let me just qualify this. I've had to qualify this for my wrestling coaches because they wimp out on this one. They don't actually answer the question, but it's the fact that you've coached for 15 years. You're going to have a number of kids you can't put on a list of 8. It doesn't mean that they aren't qualified, and you probably could have easily switched a few out. So, if you hear and your kid didn't get, that's my fault, not Coach Rice's. I asked him the question, and I said he could only go to 8. He wanted to go to about 45, and I said, no, we don't have time for that.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. I have my list. It's right here. I have like 25 names on it.
So let's flip it. You in your 15 years at DeSoto, you've also ran across some really good athletes and basketball players on the other side of the court that you've had to try to game plan and stop. One of them made an NBA career out of it. So give me your 5 to 8 opponents you've had to compete against.
Okay. Shimi Ojale, he's the guy who played in the NBA. He was at Ottawa. Man, he was my first 3 years. He was a nightmare. But we beat him a couple times. Those are 2 of my fondest wins over the years, or wins against Ottawa, because Ojale was so good. I remember we held him 27. His junior year, we held him 27, and I was like, man, we did a phenomenal job. We held him to 27. Mitchell Ballack, that played at Eudora and ended up being at Creighton, had a great career at Creighton. Benny Parker, who played at Sumner and then went to Nebraska. He was a stud. Oh man, Brooks. What was his first name? Kid from Topeka West. Elijah Brooks, maybe?
I
I
think
think
that
is what
sounds
his
right.
name was. Yeah, we played against him his junior year and senior year, and he was unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I think he went to North Dakota and maybe transferred since then. Man, what else? Tyler Kalinowski. Tyler Kalinowski. He played at Olathe East. My very first year, we played against them in a tournament in Emporia, and he was really really good. Uh, there were twins from Baser, the Murphys. My first couple years that they were great. The Murphy twins were really really good, and we played against some really good players. There's a kid at Blue Valley Southwest, Jin Woo Kim, that went to Army, I believe, and played at Army. He was really good. The Piper seems like Piper just keeps bringing good players in. PJ Moore
Hmm.
that just graduated. He was a man child that when he decided he was going to score, he scored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever? Was it Bates? I think he plays in the NBA maybe now.
We never played against Tamar Bates. He came to our tournament a couple years that we hosted, but
Okay.
those were a couple down years for us. So we were on
So
one
you
side of the
never
bracket
actually.
and they were on the other side of the bracket.
So it might
Yeah.
have been a good thing you didn't have to try to stop him then, huh?
Yeah. It was a good thing for sure.
So you say you didn't play. I'm going to say you played at MNU and then you coached at MNU. So give me, if you had to put together a starting five at MNU, who would it be?
That were there when I coached and played, or in all the I've watched them.
All
I
time.
watched them when I was little. Oh
All
man,
time.
all time.
Just
Man, you're making it really hard now. Okay, so I'm gonna do 8. I'll do
okay.
8, but it might end up being 10.
That's fine.
The first guy that I remember being great was this guy named Bob Hennig, and he had transferred from Grand Canyon back when Grand Canyon was NAI. He transferred to Mid America for his senior year, I believe. He was amazing. One of the first great ones that I remember watching. And then, so I'm gonna go. Let me skip ahead. I'm gonna skip to guys that I played with. Aaron Harris was a point guard. That he's the reason I didn't play. And of course, when I was on the team, I was like, oh, I should be playing more. Looking back, that was the dumbest thing I could have ever thought in my life. He ended up playing professionally in France for a while. He was just an incredible talent and could do anything with the ball. He was a great passer, great shooter, could get to the basket. He was nasty. Dan Fleming was just a pure shooter and super athletic. He came from Coach Lamar's hometown, Kokota. He was great. His senior year, he put Mid America on his back and took them all the way. I want to say to the Final Four, maybe to the championship game. I think the Final Four in the NAI, and he averaged like 30 something a game in the tournament. He was unreal. Dan Peterson was a 6'8". He's the second all-time leading scorer at Mid America. He played professionally in France for a few years. He was actually one of my high school teammates, and he was my college roommate. When I did play, like the 2 minutes I played, when I went in, I always threw it to Dan. That was always the right decision. If I threw it to Dan, I was making the right decision. Um, then from my coaching years, Danny Hawkins, who came from Platte County, 6'8" forward, but his senior year, we had point guards, but there were times when they needed some help, and we would just hand the ball to Danny, let him bring the ball up, and he did everything right. He was so good, Danny Hawkins. Adam Hepker, who's the current head coach at Mid America, he was the starting point guard most of the years that I was there. He was a special basketball player. I mean, when you're the starting point guard and you win a national championship, you're doing something right, and that's what Adam Hepker was. Man, Pete Carr was the senior when I was a freshman at Mid America. He was the senior starting point guard. And he was a little guy. He was like 5'10" and like 140 pounds, but just controlled the game, could steal the ball from anybody. He was from Cedar Rapids, I believe, Iowa. And he lives in Baldwin City, and he has a son that is an absolute stud at Baldwin right now. All right, so Bob Hennig, Dan Fleming, Hawkins, Hepker, Harris. A couple of years they had a big guy from Auckland, New Zealand named Peter Martin. Peter Martin, he averaged like 35 a game. In a triple overtime game, he had like 80 or something like that. Like he was just
Wow.
unstoppable,
Crazy.
just a scoring machine. He was really good. And then there's this guy actually. He had him for 1 year, and he had graduated from Olathe South, and he had gone to Wisconsin Green Bay, I believe, and he transferred back to Mid America for his senior season. His name was Greg Eben, and I think he went to Olathe South. I believe so. And Greg Eben could just score on anybody. He was unreal. There's some pretty good players at Mid America over the year. Bill Elliott was a stud. Like there's really good players at Mid America.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well, that's a good list. And this summer when we were in Baldwin, you kind of filled me in on the defensive abilities of Coach Carr
yeah,
and how
yeah,
he could control a game defensively
yeah.
and really annoy those other guards. And I'm guessing if you ever had to go up against him in practice, it probably wasn't much fun.
Well, let me just say this: when I did go up against him in practice, which was pretty regularly, I did not bring the ball up. I gave it to somebody else because I wasn't. If he wanted to take it from me, he was taking it from me.
All right, let's jump up a class to the Jayhawks. So, I've asked Roby, I've asked Steve Wallace, I've asked Coach Tinsley. I don't know. They have some okay starting five from the Jayhawks. So let me hear Coach Rice's all-time starting
Okay.
five.
All right. So I heard Steve Wallace, Lynette Woodard. He's never seen Lynette Woodard play. Can't say that. I'm going to do just guys that I've seen play. So I'm going to leave Wilt out of the conversation because, obviously he's one of the greatest ever, but I never saw him play. So we'll just do the guys I've seen play. And I'm gonna do my bias, some of my favorites rather than maybe the most talented. So Danny Manning, I think is top 3 Jayhawk of all time, I would say. Paul Pierce. I loved Kirk Heinrich. I loved Kirk Heinrich. So I'm gonna put him on that team. Frank Mason. I think Frank Mason is one of the greatest Jayhawks ever. Like he just was so great his senior year. I'll put him on that team. So who do I have? Paul Pierce, Danny Manning, Kirk Heinrich, Frank Mason. I mean, there's so many good ones. I love Devontae Graham. I love Thomas Robinson. I loved Nick Collison. I loved Rex Walters way back early 90s. I loved Rex Walters. Who am I going to put as my fifth? Gosh dang it. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and put Nick Collison on there to round out and give us another big body. Yeah. So Mason, Collison, Pierce, Manning, and Heinrich. Yeah. That's a pretty good group, I think. Won a lot of games.
Yeah, they can win. And Collison, he lived a long time in the NBA, even though he didn't play a ton. But man, at KU, he's a double machine. Obviously, I think Danny Manning. No, I was going to say he was a unanimous, but your counterpart at DeSoto left him off for Joel Embiid at Roby. So you have to talk to him about that one.
It's because Roby's too young to remember Danny Manning, probably.
Paul Pierce is the only unanimous. Now, that is caveated. You and Coach Tinsley did the same thing, said the same thing about Wilt. Like if you were truly putting it together just based on what you've heard, Wilt would be on there, but he went with a similar take. Lastly, you're a basketball guy, so whether you're an NBA guy or not, your all-time starting five in the NBA.
Oh, that's not fair. Well, because I'm biased, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird. I love Charles Barkley, so I'm putting Charles Barkley on the team. I love Charles Barkley. I love the way he played. I love the way he played. Do I have to have positions, or can I just do the best
You
five,
can,
my favorite five?
you can do a team of 5, whatever. You're the one that would have to coach
Okay.
them.
Oh, I got to coach him?
Yeah, I mean, come on now. I mean, how easy would
Okay.
that be, though? You got Bird, Jordan, and Barkley. They're going to take care of themselves. It doesn't matter who your other two really are.
All right. I need somebody who's going to pass to those guys. So Stockton. I love John Stockton. Okay. So Bird, Michael, Charles, John Stockton. Man, it's between Magic and Kobe. So can I make them 5 and 6? I'll make them 5 and 6.
That's fine.
Magic and Kobe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
gonna be a
See, there's my
competitive
bias.
team.
I'm an 80s and 90s guy.
So the only thing if Shaquille O'Neal were to get a hold of this, he's going to ask you on these other guys' all-time team. Shaq sitting in the middle. Who's going to stop Shaq? That's the only thing.
Who's Shaq going to stop?
Barkley.
That's what I would say in response to that. He's not going to guard any of those guys. He can't guard any of those guys.
Well, you're thinking of the old school Shaq that could barely run up and down. That Magic Shaq could get down and guard. Early Lakers Shaq could. So.
Okay. No, you're right. Shaquille O'Neal. I love David Robinson too. I mean, if we're talking about bigs.
I mean, it's when you talk for all three of those questions for you of Mid-America, KU, and NBA. I mean, it's such a vast array, and if you don't break it down to a specific style that you're like KU said, you're going to go with people that you liked and watched. Well, that helps narrow it down a little bit. So it's just a fun question I like to ask, so that way I can put it out there and people then can roast you for.
I'm sure they will. If any of my Mid-America counterparts, I'm sure I'll hear from them in a hurry. For sure.
Well, I'm not putting, I'll do the caveat for the high school kids. You're on your own with Mid-America guys for leaving them off. You're on your own on that one. So, well, Coach, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know it's late and you got school tomorrow, so don't want to keep you, but I really do appreciate it, and I wish you the best of luck this year with the team. It's going to be a fun year, and it'll be something different for you. We'll test your coaching chops in year 16.
Yeah, that's the truth. It's going to be a fun group. I really enjoy the group. Got a lot of questions to answer, but they'll be a great group to coach. So I'll enjoy every minute of it. Every minute of it.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach.
All right. Thanks, Jake. Appreciate you having me.